Hello everybody, Chris here, and in this video I want to show all of you a few different ways that you can control ease in and ease out for animation speeds inside of DaVinci Resolve 17. So when I'm talking about ease in and ease out, what I mean is setting the speed at which an animation is going to play at the start of that animation and then ease out for the end of that animation. If it has no easing whatsoever, then it's going to play at a linear speed between two animation keyframe points. And if it has ease in, it's going to play slow at the start. If it has ease out, it's going to play slow at the end. And then Resolve will automatically figure out how fast it should go in the middle in order to make it get between point A and point B by the end of the animation's duration. So if I go over to the Transitions tab, and just so you know, I'm working on the cut page here at the moment, we can drop pretty much any animation onto the start of the clip. So let's go ahead and grab something that's definitely going to be visible, like a clock wipe. So I'm going to left click on the video clip, press and hold, and drag it onto the start of our video clip here. When we see the little white box appear above the start of our video clip, that's how we know we're going to be adding the animation when we let go of our left mouse click. So now we can click on this animation and go up to the top right inspector, which would be very similar on the edit page, by the way. And typically for a transition, you will see a ease setting down here close to the bottom of the settings. So with ease none, it has a linear playback speed. So let's go ahead and play back the animation right now. And we can see that from start to finish, it takes the same amount of time to complete. I'll play back one more time. I think that animation is a little fast at the moment, so let's go ahead and make the duration 2 seconds. So now if we go back to the start here and hit play, it's going to be playing back slower, but it's still at a linear playback speed. So now let's add in ease curves to it. With ease, I can do ease in. So if we go to the start here and we hit play, it's going to be very slow at the start and faster at the middle and the end in order to make up for that slow start. Because remember, over those 2 seconds, it still has to end up at the same place. So if you slow down one part of your video, the first quarter second or so here, then the rest needs to be faster to compensate. So let's go from ease in to ease out now. We're going to have exactly the opposite. It's going to start fast, and then it's going to slow down as it gets close to that end. If we have ease in and out, it's going to be slow at the start and at the end. So I'll go ahead and hit space here. And you can see that it's fastest in the middle and slow at the start and the end. You can also see in the ease menu that there is a custom option here. And I believe this is relatively new. So if we go to custom, we can take our ease curve here with the transition curve setting, and we can set custom key points in order to define how the animation should play back. So if we go to the halfway point, or about 1 second here, then we should see that it's going to be at 0.5 here, meaning that we're halfway through the animation. But if we change the value here, and note that there's already keyframes set with these left and right arrows, we can go to the red keyframes. So if we change the value here, it's going to automatically create a new keyframe. So if I take it from 0.5 to 0.3 here, then that means that when we reach the middle section of this animation, it's only going to be 30% done. And as a result, if we go to the start and hit play, it should affect the speeds at which our animation plays back. So it's going to be slow at the start, slow at the middle, and then extremely fast at the end, because it has to be fast here in order to get to this final keyframe point. Now note that the basic 2 keyframes here, transition curve at 1.0 at the end, means that the animation is 100% done. And if we go to the start, we can see that the animation curve is 0.0, meaning that it hasn't even started the animation yet, which is what we would expect at the very end and start of our animations. Now that's all good for pre-built transitions, but there may be other times where you kind of create your own animations using inspector settings like zoom or position. So those can also be given an ease curve as well. In the edit page, I'm just going to close this edit index here. Let's go to a random point in our video, and I'm going to set a keyframe in the top right. We can do it for, let's just do it for zoom. And then let's go a couple seconds in the future, and let's keyframe it here as well. And I'm going to take the zoom and make it 2.0. So between these 2 keyframe points, the zoom is going to be going up from 1.0 to 2.0 value. If I go back to the first keyframe and I hit play, we can see that little animation occur, zooming in on our video. But you'll notice as the time goes by that the speed of that zoom stays consistent. There's no easing on either side of it. But you can see that there's no easy ease curve setting here. But we can still add easing to the curve of this animation. So how we can do that is clicking this little icon in the bottom right hand section of our video clip. And when we do that and scroll down a little bit, we're going to see the properties and the values where we have set custom keyframes on. In this case, zoom X. So these values can be snapped to if you have snapping enabled on the timeline. And we can see that this is a linear curve between the first keyframe and the second keyframe. So we have a consistent speed going on there. But we have these settings up here where we can actually add a Bezier curve to these points, either to one or both of them and any other keyframe points that we happen to have set for this property. So I'm going to go ahead and drag a box around these two. And then I'm going to go up here to this middle section and click on that. So this is going to be adding an ease in and an ease out to our simple animation here. We can tell that because time is the horizontal property. So if we're pushing to the right or left faster than we're going up or down, then that means time is progressing faster than the change of our property. In this case, that means that time is moving faster than the zoom is, meaning that at the start and the end, we have an ease in. It's going to be moving very slowly. But then as a result, in this middle section here, it needs to speed up to make up for that because we're still going with the same starting and ending points at the same starting and ending time. So if I go ahead and hit play here, you'll see what I mean with the zoom. It's much faster in the middle and then slower at the end and at the beginning as well. Now, when you change these points away from the basic linear setting, then you're going to get these Bezier curve handles. So when you click on one of the keyframe points, you can also click on these little blue handles, and then you can use these to adjust the shape of the curve. So it doesn't need to strictly be a basic ease in and ease out. You can highly customize how the value should change between these 2 points. The only thing that's going to stay in place is the starting and ending positions for the zoom X and the time, unless you happen to move these keyframes around, which you can do in this little timeline graph. You can drag the points if you need to increase the duration of the duration. If you can increase the duration by dragging a point over here to the right, stretching this animation over a longer period of time, and you can increase the amount of zoom in the endpoint by pulling this upwards, making its end zoom value more. And this just automatically updates it in the video. So once you do it down here, it's going to update in the inspector and in the video preview as well. And you can always hit Control Z to undo and go back. Now, if you ever want to return the animation between these 2 points to normal, you can just select them and then go over to this right hand option, the linear option. And if you click on the points again, you'll see that there's no more Bezier curve handles once again. There's also these other options, as you can see. Basically, the little white dot in the preview is going to be the keyframe point, and then wherever there is a line sticking out is the direction you're going to receive a Bezier curve handle on. So if I click here, we see a curve handle pops over on the left. With this middle one, if there were more keyframes in the future, like if I go down here and I set a keyframe point, and now we go over here and hit the second one from the left, then you can see, because there's lines on both sides here, we get a Bezier curve on both sides. So we can technically take these handles and manipulate both sides of the property graph at the same time. You do got to be a little careful though, because if you were just looking for a standard zoom and you play around with the Bezier curve handles too much, then clearly you can get some very weird results here. So if I hit space here, it's going to zoom way in, and then it's going to zoom out, and then it's going to zoom out a little bit more when we get to this point, and then kind of back in. So in most cases, you probably wouldn't be looking for that kind of animation pattern for your properties, but if you did need it, that would be a good place to find it. So one last thing I want to point out is that on the Fusion page editor, you can also have similar features being able to affect the ease in and ease out of animations. So here I've added a little blur node, which we can use to blur our video out. So let's set the blur size to 1 value at 1 point in time. I'm going to hit keyframe, go to a different part of our video timeline, or the effect timeline rather, and we're going to change the blur size to a different value. So now if we open up the spline editor, we can see that there are properties which have been keyframed. I can click on one, and now we're going to see a very similar setup to what we saw on the edit page. We have these points which currently have a linear animation, but we can actually manipulate this graph so that between these 2 points it's not a linear speed. So I can select these 2 points. So I'm going to left click on one. I'm going to hold shift and left click on the other, make sure they're both selected. And then I can use tools down here like smooth in order to smooth out the transition between these 2 points. So you can see that manipulates our curve a little bit, and we also have these Bezier curve handles. So if we need the blur to move at a non-linear pace, then we can have it animate between those 2 points in a more interesting way. So we can go back here to test it and go ahead and hit play in our timeline. I don't know if we'll be able to really tell the animation going on here. So I think this animation is just going to take a little bit too much time to clearly see the speed of the animation as it goes between those 2 points. So we could easily left click this keyframe over here, pull it over to the left, make the animation a lot faster. Go ahead and play it back one more time. So let's see if we can notice a difference. I'll just go ahead and make the difference between the effects very, very pronounced here. Pulling that keyframe down. Now we can go here, hit play, and it should be slow at the start but fast at the end. Okay, yeah, hopefully you can see it there. If you watch the blur size, you can see that it decreases much faster at the end at the moment than it does at the start of this animation. So you can get similar ease in and ease out by using the spline editor for fusion effects is the main point there. But if you're using just a simple video transition, then of course it's just baked in with those basic ease in, ease out settings. And if you need to animate a property with easing or curves, then you can do that by keyframing in the inspector and then popping up this little curve editor for any video clip you have edited properties on. So that's pretty much in a nutshell what you need to know about ease in and ease out curves for controlling animation speeds inside of DaVinci Resolve 17. I hope this video was pretty complete and informative for all of you. Thanks for watching. I've been Chris, and hopefully I'll see all of you in my future video content.